Hey everybody, it's Pkmn Hoenn, or BJ if you prefer, and this will be the continuation video to cover the mistakes and issues with characters 11 to 20 that I've given Smash movesets to. If you missed the first part, then here's a link to it now. Otherwise, let's jump right into this. The only thing I see people complain about with Crash is the up special, mostly with people saying they would have preferred the jetpack. That's your opinion, I gave mine in the video, and I think it would be lame. Others show concern about the up special being too complicated. I really don't think it is though. You jump off of one of 4 random kinds of boxes, and they have a chance to drop 1 of 2 random items that can be used by players. That's it. I think this was just a case where people felt it was too complicated because of how long I spent explaining it. But really in practice, it's actually a visually simple move. I mean, if I tried explaining every aspect of Robin or Pac-Man's neutral specials, that would also take a while, just because there are so many individual factors to those attacks. But in practice, they really aren't that bad when you actually see them in action, and that's just the same case for this up special for Crash. Bandana Dee is another one that didn't really have any major issues that a lot of people talked about. But there is one thing that I see a lot of people comment about though, but it has nothing to do with the actual moveset. A lot of people seem to compare the moveset to the one used in Super Smash Flash 2, which is a fan game that apparently includes Bandana Dee, among some other characters. I'm not actually sure, I've never played or seen the game, and I don't really plan on doing so. The most common Smash Flash comments that I get for Dee is that I should have just copied the moveset for him, or that I shouldn't have bothered with making this moveset since he's already in Smash Flash. Well, for one thing, it's a fan game, not an official game, so that latter point is moot. Also, that's just really dumb logic overall. And no, I do not just want to copy movesets, I want to make my own movesets with the only references that I use being from the official games that the characters come from. I didn't think I'd really need to say this, but I feel like just copying other people's ideas would be cheating, and I'd feel really scummy if I did that. I don't just want to give you guys other people's ideas, that would defeat the whole purpose of this series. I want to give you guys my ideas, and in return, you all share your ideas. I want to get people thinking and discussing about this. Anyways, I still haven't seen the Smash Flash moveset, or Smash Flash at all for that matter, mostly because I don't want to see any movesets that could possibly influence my own. And with me saying that, I hope that quells those of you who claim that I just ripped the moveset off from Smash Flash. I didn't. Any similarities between mine and theirs is purely coincidental. But my idea as to why the movesets are so similar? Because Kirby and Smash were both made by Sakurai, and have very similar gameplay styles. So for Bandana Dee, both myself and the creators of Smash Flash probably just had the same idea, to use the already existing moveset for Bandana Dee that exists in the Kirby games, and just translate it to Smash. That's it. Nice and simple. With Rex, the only thing I see people take issue to is, wouldn't you know it, the gimmick. And aside from very few people saying that they just don't want it there, mostly a lot of people refer to how I handled the character Mythra and how her appearance rate was so low. Call me suspicious, but I have this sneaking suspicion that based off the language and nature of your comments, a good chunk of you really care less about the moveset itself and really just want to see Mythra. More than likely because she's your favorite, among other reasons. During the stream, some of you guys did show concern about a 1% chance being way too low. I wasn't concerned about it until I realized that I forgot to mention a kind of important detail during the video, so again, my bad. But for the moveset, when you have Rex switch between blades, there wouldn't be a cooldown, so he can just keep switching between blades as many times as he wants, so you can just spam it until you get Mythra if you're lucky enough. Probably wouldn't be a smart idea, since more than likely people would take advantage of you trying to do that, but you know, you do you. But even still, some suggested a rise in appearance chance anyway, which is fair. But the highest I'd go is 5%. Remember, the point of Mythra is to just be a much stronger version of Pyra's moveset. If I were to make the appearance rate too high, it would reach a point where Mythra would probably appear way too often, and the character as a whole would be seen as too powerful. So aside from people complaining about the Pokemon lineup being first stage water, second stage grass, and third stage fire again, which I will not go back into since I already went through that spiel with the Johto trainer, no one really had an issue with the Hoenn trainer themselves at all. There were an uncomfortably large amount of you though who were complaining that I didn't give Grovyle the attack Leaf Blade, which is seen as one of its signature attacks. I did. It's just not a special. If you look at a good chunk of Grovyle's basic attacks that I gave him, you see that I did in fact show some moves where it sharpens its arm leaves into a blade, thus making it Leaf Blade. I could go into a whole rant about how many people leave comments or complain about me not using attacks, moves, or other stuff for characters and movesets when I actually did, but that's neither here or there. Just make sure you pay attention before commenting, guys, that's all. I know some people are bound to miss stuff, it happens, it's an honest mistake, but sometimes it really does feel like you make those comments before finishing the video. Goku's another one that no one had any real issues with the moveset itself aside of their own ideas or opinions, which again you're entitled to, but I'm not talking about them here unless a single thing is brought up by a lot of people. The one thing I do see a lot of people trying to call me out for is my comment at the beginning of the video, when I said that Goku in his prime can destroy galaxies and that no one currently in Smash is capable of doing that. And I do stand by that, as despite everyone's arguments about it, no one's really been able to convince me otherwise. And sorry guys, I'm not talking about it. It has nothing to do with the actual moveset itself, and it just seems like a waste of time to talk about it here. You're still free to make your arguments about it, but honestly, I really don't care. It was just a throwaway line that I used to build up the video before I revealed that it was Kid Goku I was using instead of Adult Goku for the April Fool's Day joke. Speaking of which, I know there are still plenty of you that were miffed about me using Kid Goku and not Adult Goku, and despite me using the premise as a joke, that is actually still what I believe best fits. Even if it wasn't for April Fool's Day, I still would have done that. To me, Kid Goku really does make more sense in the setting of Super Smash Bros. I just chose to show it specifically on April Fool's Day just to get under a lot of you guys' skin. And it looks like it worked, so my mission was accomplished. Nothing noteworthy for Tails aside from people also comparing my moveset of him to Smash Flash's. I already gave my rant about that for Bandana Dee, but that's really about it. Well, that and a lot of you for some reason want me to switch the neutral special and side special? Why though? The neutral special, being the rapid Tails attack, is a move that can attack in place and hit on both sides, whereas the side special, the energy ball, is shot sideways. Remember guys, when making attacks in Smash, the move should always be used towards the direction that the control stick is pointing, with the only exception to that being the down specials kind of. If you have it any other way, it would be really awkward to play with. The biggest thing for Spyro was that people wanted to see more stuff that referenced the Legend series or the Skylander series. As Brian said in the video, when making this moveset, we wanted to stick strictly with the original series with the exception of a single grab that was used just to fill the moveset up. If we do anything for Legends or Skylanders, it'll be for their own separate videos if they get enough requests. The big thing regarding Blue's moveset is, once again, nothing to really do with the moveset itself, but more so the debate on whether or not this moveset for Blue counts as an Echo Fighter or just a semi-clone. My answer to that? It really doesn't matter. It's a fan-made video. If you think the moveset would work better as a semi-clone and not an Echo Fighter, fine. That's a perfectly rational opinion. I stated in the video itself why I thought his role as an Echo Fighter would fit very well. But again, the aspect of him simply being a semi-clone is fine, it's no big deal. The only thing I'm wondering about are the few of you who seem to think that there are these written rules as to what actually makes an Echo Fighter an Echo Fighter. Some of you said that because some of the moves were different that it won't work. I'll simply point you to Ken Masters in Smash who has like 8 or 9 moves that are straight up different from Ryu's. Another small batch of you guys said it wouldn't work because of the height differences of the Pokemon? Who says? Honestly, what makes a character an Echo Fighter is very loose, and until Sakurai explicitly says otherwise, I'm fairly certain that you guys are just making those rules up. Until then, the only real thing that separates whether a character is considered an Echo Fighter or not is whether or not they get their own fighter number or another fighter's number with an epsilon symbol. That's literally it. And here we go. Minecraft Steve. No doubt my one character that does in fact have the most amount of criticism with the moveset itself. Do let me get one small thing out of the way first. Starting off with me referring to Iron, Gold, and Diamond as gemstones. Yes, only Diamond falls into that category, Iron and Gold do not. I really should have called them Ore, that's my bad. As for the moveset itself, I see people writing one of 2 different criticisms for it. Either that based on how it would work with the gimmick of crafting the moveset that it would be impossible to start matches with, or that overall the moveset is just too complicated and can never be properly implemented into Smash. Well, overall, honestly, I still think the moveset works. I do not regret making it the way I did. Some of you might be groaning right now after hearing me say that, but at least hear me out. I know everyone's biggest complaint is accessibility, but I do believe I made this moveset accessible. It's just not traditional is all. I wanted Steve to be different. I wanted him to be a character that people really need to think about and stay on top of in order to use. Just like you need to be in Minecraft. You need to be thinking constantly in that game. Otherwise you'll find yourself dying a lot. Not every character in Smash is fully accessible right off the bat, and you do need some practice in order to figure out how to use them. When it comes to making these movesets, I generally always want to stay true when it comes to theming these characters based off their games or their own personalities, while at the same time making sure that the moveset as a whole is balanced and works properly, just like how every character that exists in Super Smash Bros. Is made. I think my biggest mistake when making that video was not putting enough emphasis on how the moveset would actually function for Smash as a whole, and not talking about the necessary balancing they would need in order to actually be functional. Well, as for it never being able to be implemented into Smash, that's just limited thinking right there. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Smash is not a conventional fighting game. Anything can be put into a video game so long as the time and effort is applied properly. As for those of you who say that it could never work because you can never get any materials before your opponents rush down on you, let me ask you this. When you play Smash Bros, do you think that every character can be played in the exact same way? The answer is no. You can't. If you try to, you're going to lose most of those matches. Every character in Smash is set up with certain playstyles in mind. Some can be rushdown characters, other characters require more patience, some characters need to be defensive, and then you have characters where you really need to be conscious of everything going on with the character at all times and keep thinking constantly. Now this is just a matter of personal player tactics, yes, but you cannot argue that because of one's personal preferences that they would end up being inherently worse with some characters more than others because of that. That's a big reason why most people have their mains in fighting games. People will play the characters that they feel most comfortable playing, because those characters were designed to take full advantage of that player's fighting style. Now there are of course those who only play characters that are just their favorites. I fall into this category myself. But unless all of those characters have a similar fighting style, one of two things will happen when you do that. Either they give up on the character because it just doesn't work for them and they get sad knowing that they're bad with one of their favorite characters, or they try to improve themselves, learn the character, and expand their tactics to try to get better with other characters outside of their comfort zone. Steve with this moveset would be a complicated character, yes, but not because there's a lot to the moveset, but because he's a character that would be kind of hard to pick up and learn. For beginning fights, you need to play defensively, taking advantage of what you have in order to get by. But once you do get what you'll need, then you'll be able to start becoming a bit more aggressive as you collect more and more materials. Which is exactly how you play Minecraft. When you start off in a new world, you need to play it safe. You can't just go rushing in on everything, otherwise you'll find yourself getting killed quite often. But when you are fully prepared, then a lot of those earlier threats begin to feel like a non-issue. Now for those of you who think that he'd be completely defenseless at first with no means of being able to play defensively, that's probably my fault for not emphasizing the actual usefulness of his special attacks, the block placement moves. I stated in the video that those are in fact attacks. Now what I should have stated more thoroughly is how strong they actually are. The block placement specials deal a little bit of damage themselves, but have large fixed knockback, and have very early frame activation too, so they'd be fast moves. So hitting your opponents with these moves should give you enough time to then be able to break the blocks. Speaking of which, something else I should have brought up in the video itself was the actual usefulness of punching as well, so again, my bad. But the punching would be spammable and would have a little bit of knockback as well. That way you don't rapidly shoot over your opponent's damage since the punch deals a set 5% of damage. That'd make it too good. So overall, to give context, placing down a tree, then breaking a single block from it to get one piece of wood, which would then automatically give Steve his sword, would take 2 to 3 seconds at most. But for those who continue to dismiss the character just because you think he'd be too hard to learn, well, that just means the character wouldn't be for you, and that's fine. I'm sure there are at least 1 or 2 characters in Smash who have movesets that you don't like and don't like to play. It all boils down back to player preference, because you know what? There probably are a lot of people out there who would like this kind of moveset, or just people who love Minecraft enough to the point where they really want to play as the character and will take the time to learn him. To learn any tricks, mix-ups, ways to take advantage of your opponents, with a moveset like Steve's, those possibilities are actually endless. You can hit them with your trees or stones to knock them away. You can make a wall by placing trees or stone blocks everywhere. Your opponents can't go through them, they'd have to jump over them or break them, and that takes time. You can try to distract them with a monster spawner, you can try to trick your opponents into breaking the blocks for you, or you can combine all of those and really mess your opponent up. And I'm sure that there were even loads more options that a lot of you guys can think of that I haven't. You know, I think the best thing to compare this moveset to would be Phoenix Wright in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. When that character first came out, everybody dismissed him as bad. Oh, you have to take time to collect evidence before he even becomes good? That character's unplayable. But he's not. It's just that so many people dismissed him immediately or just chose not to play him because they didn't want to take the time to learn the character and preferred other characters that better fit their playstyle. But you know what happened with the people that did want to play as Nick and sat down and took the time to practice and learn the character? They became amazing with him! I'll point you to the user Lythero. Great guy, streams a lot, definitely check him out. The dude's amazing at video games. He's an avid Phoenix Wright player and he's amazing with him. Why? Because he took the time to learn the character. He experimented, he labbed, he found ways to make collecting evidence easy. And it would be the exact same case for Steve. If you think it would be too hard to play as him or just straight up don't like the moveset, that's fine. You're entitled to that opinion. But those of you who are willing to pick him up, I know would be amazing with Steve and would be able to pull off a lot of cool stuff with him. It would just require a little more thinking than usual is all. And before you all get offended, I'm not calling anybody stupid. Like I said, there are even characters in Smash that require a little more thought than others. With Olimar, you need to be constantly aware of what Pikmin you have and what they do, as well as which one is next in line. Otherwise, you will not be able to play that character at their best. With Inkling, you need to be constantly aware of your ink, because if you focus too much on spamming it and not enough time refilling it, you'll find yourself losing a lot of matches with the Inkling as well. Now, I can go on about the complexity of other characters like Robin, Bayonetta, or so on, but I think you guys should hopefully get the idea by now. However, despite me going into everything that I just talked about, I did think of a proper compromise that I think would ease some people's issues with the character, or at least when it comes to starting matches with him. What if instead of starting matches with only blocks, he could at least start matches with just the sword in hand? Much in the same way as Captain Olimar starting matches with a full squad of Pikmin, or Inkling starting matches with a full tank of ink. That way Steve at least has access to his base sword attacks from the start, and things would be easier for those who think they'd have a more difficult time. A buddy of mine at work even suggested having his stage intro make him punching a tree and retrieving the sword that way. This makes a lot of sense, since generally the first thing that most everybody does when playing Minecraft is punch a tree to get wood, as wood is generally the base material needed for the ever-important crafting table. The punching only thing would still be there, but only if Steve is KO'd when he only has the sword, as a means of punishing players who are doing more fighting and not enough crafting. I do still personally think that starting off with just the punching would be fine, but letting him at least start with the sword is something to think about. I just really don't like the idea of his moveset just having him have a base set of items for every attack. Like I said in the video, I feel that's an injustice to the character and Minecraft as a whole. That said, there is one criticism about the moveset that people say would make things easier, and it's one that I do fully agree with and I'm kicking myself for not thinking about. Material management, and knowing what you have at all times. And that's fair. So, I'd say that above Steve's damage icon, there would be a UI that matches the select bar in Minecraft that shows what weapons you currently have, what tier the tools are, as well as what access to materials you're currently holding, just to help make keeping track of things much easier. And another fair thing that I see people asking about are what the actual differences that the different tiers of swords do. And that's again my bad for not bringing up specifics about those aside from just saying what's weakest to strongest. Well, to quickly summarize, wood of course would deal the weakest damaging knockback. It's still stronger than punching at least on top of having a longer range and distorted hitbox. Gold would deal the same amount of damage as wood, but a lot of you brought up how gold is more useful for spells and enchantments and whatnot. So maybe to reference that, it could deal a lot of knockback, as to not make it totally useless. And then from stone to iron to diamond, each subsequent tier from there would of course increase in damage and launch power. But gold would have more launch power than stone and iron, with diamond dealing the same amount of launch power as gold does. That was a big one. but I knew that coming into this. Anyways, let's finish this up. So getting the actual editing stuff out of the way first, I misspelled Mir and I used the wrong apart. Those were simple script errors that I missed. It actually was way worse than that beforehand. Luckily, I have friends who helped me correct most of them. We just missed a few is all. There was also the error of me saying perpendicular for Papyrus's forward air when I actually meant to say parallel. That was the same thing that happened when I said 109 Pokemon instead of 809 in the Johto Trainer video. The script said parallel, but for some reason my mouth said perpendicular, and I never caught it until after it was already pointed out to me in the comments. And that about does it for grammatical errors and... What's that? There was a grammatical error in the title card. It should be what if Papyrus and Sans were in Smash, and not what if Papyrus and Sans was in Smash. Why yes, you're absolutely correct. But if you read the description of the video, which to be fair I know majority of you don't, you'd know why I have it like that. You wanna know why? Well, let's just say I was feeling especially Sansy when I made it. I was about to type in were instead of was, but then I thought, you know what? I wonder how many people I can mess with by having it as was instead. And I was curious to see how many people actually don't read the YouTube descriptions and who do. And I'll say now, clearly, a lot of you don't. So yes, in short, I'm aware that it should say were in Smash, not was in Smash, but I just felt like messing with you guys. In any which case, on to the issues with the actual moveset itself. Starting off, one common thing I see people are worried about is that since all of Papyrus's attacks are long range, they can all just be reflected. Now this was another my bad moment because I thought about that but then forgot to mention it in the video. I have it so that any bones that are attached to the ground cannot be reflected. Those bones will just be treated like normal attacks. Only bones floating in the air can be reflected. Also, the annoying dog can be reflected, as it is treated as a projectile when the attack is first used. And if it is reflected this way, when it begins roaming around the stage, it will be treated like the one who reflected it used it. So it'll avoid the one who reflected it, and can start trying to pounce Papyrus. This can be seen as a double-edged sword though, since now Papyrus can attack the dog himself and get his bone back a little more easily than normal. Also, Sans' Gaster Blaster laser would not count as projectiles, but instead attacks with just really long hitboxes, so those can't be reflected. Now getting into the gimmick itself, there does seem to be some confusion on how it works specifically. I'll quickly reiterate. Papyrus would have a certain amount of HP depending on the rule set of the current fight that he's in. 150 HP per stock when playing stock matches, and 150 HP per minute when playing timed matches. Though during the video, I said that when it comes to stamina matches, it would be a ratio of 3 to 4. But after thinking about it and talking about it with the chat during the livestream, that might actually be too high. So I'm thinking the ratio should really be like 9.9 to 10 instead. Now some people think that just because I made Sans super broken that this moveset should be toned down or just straight up banned if it was ever actually made. It seems to me that some of you guys didn't fully comprehend how I set up Papyrus's HP meter. I said in the video that Papyrus would be an average weight fighter. Let's put him around here. Now let me ask you guys something. How often do you actually see characters of that weight class have more than an average of 150% of damage before losing a stock? The answer? Not that often. I set this moveset up with the idea that you would hardly ever see Sans unless the player playing Papyrus is really good at surviving, DIing, and whatnot. Plus, this is only if you can keep that up. If you find yourself getting KO'd at an early percent at any point, unless you're suddenly amazing at keeping yourself alive for the remaining lives, yeah, you're more than likely not going to see Sans at all. Plus, there is actually a reason why I made Sans as disgustingly broken as I did. Aside from the fact that he is just that powerful, but this is another my bad moment for forgetting to mention this during the video, so again, my apologies. When Papyrus is turned to dust, he's gone. He does not come back for the remainder of the fight. You'll be playing as Sans until the match ends. And more importantly, what I should have mentioned, when Sans does come in, his damage does not reset. He'll come in with the same amount of damage percent and stocks that Papyrus had beforehand. And now that you know that, think about this. If Papyrus needs to sustain more than 150% of damage for each life, how great of a condition do you think Sans will actually be in? Here's an example. If the Papyrus player is playing a 3-stock match and they manage to get just a little bit more than 150% with each stock, enough to allow Sans to come in, more than likely by that point, the player will be on their last stock with well over 150% of damage. Pretty much Sans will be coming in already in a lot of danger. And remember what I said in the video, I made him super lightweight, putting him right about here. Characters that light with damage that high are not safe at all. That's why I gave him such an amazing dodge and why his attacks are also spammable, because if he gets hit by even some of the lightest attacks in the game, he's done, just like an Undertale. He is literally designed to be a last-ditch effort character, and your last hope of winning. Again, just like an Undertale, as Sans is literally the world's last hope, their last-ditch effort before it's destroyed by a Kara-possessed Frisk. So again, I apologize for not emphasizing that a little more in the video. If I did, I'm sure some of you wouldn't have been as confused as you are. In any which case, there's only one more thing I feel the need to bring up since so many of you keep asking for it or even outright demanding it. The AU references. Wanting me to make costumes for Papyrus and Sans that reference the various fan AUs. The answer to that is simply no. I'm not doing any fan stuff. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of fun fan stories out there that I did enjoy, but they're still just that. Fan stories. When I make these movesets, I only reference assets from the actual canon games themselves. I will not reference fan stuff, and this goes for all characters that I do, both ones that I've done and ones that I will do. Which is also why I didn't make mention to a Herobrine costume for Steve. That's a fan thing. Though actually, something interesting to bring up, and I only bring this up because I saw one person bring this to my attention, and I apologize that I didn't write your username down, but shoutouts to you. But as it turns out, Papyrus's cool dude outfit does in fact have an official color scheme. It was shown on the art used for the Undertale Collector's Edition. And what I find most funny was how close I was. Literally just switch the color of the pants and shoes, and I would have literally unintentionally nailed it. So I found that kind of funny. Though this also shows Sans with pink slippers, and I know some of you were complaining about me making them blue. I used the color reference from the official Sans Tarot card, which shows them as blue slippers. I do want to make one more quick side note. For those who keep saying that the poison damage that Sans deals is actually called Karmic Retribution, I really think that's also a fan thing. I looked as hard as I could, but from what I can tell, it looks like that was just a fan speculation that became so widely known that people actually thought that's what it meant. There's nothing official that calls it that. I looked and I couldn't find anything. If you can prove me wrong and show me evidence to the contrary, then I'll be happy to eat my own words, but until then, I believe that it's a fan thing. And that does it. Those are all the things that I wanted to address for the movesets for characters 11 to 20. Now again, I know there are a lot of things that individuals have brought up, but like I said, I really only wanted to talk about the stuff that a lot of people have brought up, as well as actual mistakes in the videos themselves, whether they were misinformation or editing mistakes. If I brought up every single little thing that every one person said, this video would be way longer than it already is. Also, I guarantee you that I'd be saying the same answers for a lot of them anyways. So if you have any questions about anything that I didn't bring up in this video, feel free to ask me about them and I'll do my best to answer your questions. And of course, if you have any more characters that you would like to request to be given possible Smash movesets, let me know in the comments as well, or contact me on Twitter at Pkmn Hoenn on Twit. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time!